Welcome to a brand new show called Between Two Fake Trees. I'm host number 1, Zack Miller.
And I'm host number 2, Chris Shelton.
Greetings.
So we're here today because Zack and I had discussed how can Startwheel start doing more content. Video content is one of the most consumed types of content in today's age, and I thought with all of the video that Zack has done, maybe he could help us figure this thing out. And rather than teaching me with words and phrases, we decided why not just go ahead and do a video series. And so this is the first in that series.
If you have questions, hit us up in the comments and maybe we will answer them.
Or maybe not. If you're leaving it up to this guy, you may be waiting a while.
I answer all the questions. That would be Social 101.
And that's what this video is called, Social Video 102, actually. If you're looking for 101, you won't find it because we want it to be ironic.
Or the anomalies. We've just jumped past. Well, let's actually put it like this first. If you're going to be on social media, social is defined as what? More than one? Probably?
Sure.
2 things. And someone comments on your posts or likes your post, you should probably like and comment back. And if they're being a donkey, just say, hey, I disagree with that, and move on, right?
Or better yet, keep it positive. Don't
positive.
disagree with it. Say, thank you for your comment. Well, I would like to know more about that. This is a little tidbit that I actually learned from Zack Miller's book, Anomaly. The title you can see in the background here.
Of course. Also here in real life.
Yeah, so this book is full of tidbits. I must admit, going into it, I thought, well, am I gonna? So he dropped the audio book version last week, and I've been asking for that for a while because I just, after my day of reading emails and all that, I just find myself not reading hardcover or softcover books, and so I was hoping that the audio book would drop. It dropped last week, and I'm about a quarter of the way through it so far. And I've picked up quite a few nuggets after I got through that fact that I have to listen to this guy's voice for the next 6 hours of that audio book. But it's really good. It is. And one of the nuggets that I picked up is just that, which was...
That it's really good.
That is... No. Well, that too. We'll go with that as a given. But I've forgotten what we were just talking about.
Content and owning content. So... I think one thing that is incredibly important that not a lot of people talk about is understanding what is kind of indexed and what is more of like what's relevant right now today. So for example, we're doing a live Facebook post, right? We could be dropping the most amazing knowledge bombs in the world. Number 1, at this point, April 11th of 2019, video is not really understandable the same way that text is, the same as an image. So if we do this
when you say understandable, you mean through the AI features and the crawling of the Googles?
Yeah, so like if you're on Google, okay, and you're looking for this video, the only thing it can really pull out from it is whatever you title it.
Right.
At this point, right?
Social Video 102.
Right. And so, but most people will then look for this video and they won't be able to find it and they don't know why, right?
Right.
And so what you have to be very cautious of and cognizant of is understanding that, hey, this video might be amazing and likely it is amazing, but if you want this to be indexed, if you want this to be able to be searchable and repeatable, you have to make sure that you not only record it, not only highlight it the right way, but also you put it in forms that are searchable over time. Right, so you could have a post. Let's say you actually look for this post a year from now.
Okay.
Right. The only way someone is going to find this post is if they somehow query in like a Google search or on a Facebook thing. They type my name, your name, Startwheel, and Social Video 102, and even then it might not come up first. Okay. And so you just have to be very cautious. So understand that social media is basically what's relevant right now. Think of it as your daily news feed. and that's it.
And when you say right now, you mean like literally in this moment, this video is meaningful. But a month from now, it will get buried by all of the other videos and things in one of our audience's feeds, right? And so what would you prescribe then for fixing that problem? I mean, specifically, so am I going to want to put this video on YouTube and then create a post about it perhaps on Startwheel's news feed and embed that video in that news feed, making sure, of course, that the description or the text within that post reflects the content of the video?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to do this. The number one thing is to constantly be creating and providing relevant content. I say that in quotation marks because that's a hard thing to do, that your following, your listeners, your viewership is looking for, right? And so that's what something like this is. Then on the other side, you would then take the things that are that seem to be super popular, usually it's longer formed content that you can pull out more information from. You would then create a page. So let's say you have a WordPress site, 35% of the internet is WordPress. So then you would take this video, you would embed that link, which basically means you're just copying a line of code that you don't have to be technical. You're copying something, you're pasting it, and then you're adding a ton of text under it to basically tell the story of what you're seeing so that that video can be understood by a search engine like a Bing or a Google. So that when you Google that thing, it pops up and is relevant to whoever is viewing that specific thing.
Excellent. So what are some of the biggest questions or pushback that you get from your audience so far on this topic?
I don't think most people actually know about it. I think most people just don't think that way.
Right.
And so it's not necessarily that it's a good or a bad thing. It's more of a, hey, just make sure you're thinking about this. Because if all you do is hope and build an amazing platform on, let's just call it Facebook, and it's solely based on whatever the algorithm of the week is, and then they change that algorithm, you get into a very scary situation if they change it. So like a year ago, I would have talked about this platform, Facebook Live, being the thing that's going to be like a crazy, the thing of the future. And for whatever reason, it was popular for a very long time. But recently, it seems like Facebook has gotten off of it a little bit.
Okay.
And so why you have to be cautious is that if you're building a platform on someone else's platform, while you might own the words that you're saying and the creative behind it, it's really sitting on that one's platform. And so they can do with it whatever they want with it.
Sure.
And so you want to make sure that you own that content as well and are doing things with it, with that material, that content that allows you to be visible later, right? It's why a lot of people will build an email list because they have those direct emails, right? You have a Facebook following. Imagine trying to directly message all those people at once. You can't do that really, right? You can post a video like this and hopefully they see it in their feed.
Right. So let's go beyond just the repurposing in a blog feed format so that Google will be able to, or any search engine will be able to crawl it. Let's ask what other. So you've been doing a podcast for quite some time now, right? And you start. Correct me if I'm wrong. You start with an actual video, right? So your audience can access it via video, and then you repurpose it to also put it on your podcast, which can be accessed on any of your favorite podcasting apps. I use Overcast. So you've got it not only in video format now, but also in audio format and also on your website in text format, right? So tell us about how you sort of started that process and what you learned along the way, and then have since prescribed in your Anomaly book, right? So you started a podcast quite some time ago. How long ago did you start that podcast?
Podcast is called Zack Miller Says. I started in 2016, I guess.
How many episodes so far?
316, 17.
All right. By comparison, this is number one for me. So, except for the video we did about a year ago to the day.
So consistency is important in creating a following because then, not to jump off of this, but what's important about consistency, and I don't know if you've read this yet in the book, I can't remember where it is, but you tune in to TV shows on basically the same regularity every week.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you wake up in the morning, maybe you watch the Today Show every day,
mm-hmm.
right? I'm not saying that you do, but maybe you do. It's probably one of the first things that you do. You turn it on, you know that it's on, it's there, right? The example I use in the book is from a YouTube channel called Hot Ones, and they created a TV show called Hot Ones where it's an interview show, just like this, except two better looking people, me and you, of course. And the interviewer, Sean Evans, progressively eats hot chicken wings with his guests, who are usually celebrities that are on some sort of normal media tour, which happens because they're going around place to place trying to promote this thing. And instead of just be like, tell me about the book, tell me about this movie that you created, tell me about this new sports app, whatever it is. They're eating food in a specific, and they eat these chicken wings. But the point is that it's every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so people know to tune into that, right? So regularity is really important. Also recognizing that while the number one thing might be audio podcasts, which if you don't know what a podcast is, it's basically the new radio, and it's a way for you to listen to the content that you want with very minimal ads when you want to, wherever you want to. Why I do my podcast a little slightly differently is because I recognize that if I can record them in video, I can then take that content, which was solely made to be audio, but I can then take bits and pieces out and put them on my social and use it out in that places. I could post it on my YouTube channel, and I could sprinkle it out in different ways because I don't just have to have the audio, and there's ways that you can mess with the audio.
Well, let's talk about some of these ways that you mentioned. What sort of software platforms are you using to slice and dice these for various formats?
Sure. So I'm of the opinion that you can do all this stuff for super cheap. So I have a MacBook Pro that I bought refurbished because
lean is key.
Lean is key. And it works fine. I record using the standard camera. It's a Retina display. The standard camera that comes with the MacBook. I use an external microphone because audio is the key. We're not using one right now. You probably can understand that.
What external microphone?
Right now it's a Snowball because it's cheap and easy, and I want the majority of people to realize that you can use a cheap and easy piece of equipment to get stuff out. Most people are too afraid to start. They say, "Oh, I need $5,000 in equipment." And I'm like, "You can do it,"
which is more of an excuse than anything. Here we are with an iPad and just getting it going.
But the point is, you don't need fancy equipment. I could do it with the headphones that I use, for my workouts if I want to. I want something a little bit better. $40 microphone. Type Blue Snowball in Amazon or go to Walmart, wherever. I then download a program called Ecamm Live. When I'm interviewing people, and that was like $50. I think they're now a monthly subscription. And then I use Skype, and so we do the recording via Skype. We have a conversation, and then when it's done, it pulls up a file. It says, "What do you want to do with this?" And I then export that, and then I'll throw in a couple of other things in there, like an intro for me, a bumper, which is basically saying, "You're watching Zack Miller Says." That's it.
Perfect.
I've figured out how to streamline this. It's super easy.
So we've gotten to a point where you have a raw file, right? You've done the video cast. Looks like we have some comments coming in.
Ben Wallace, what's up, homie?
Hey, Ben.
He learned about that from a book. It's a great show.
So you've done the audio, right? You said the bumper and the intro and maybe an outro. Okay. So you have 4 audio files at this point, right? And you've downloaded them. You use Skype to initially record. You've downloaded those. So you have these files, right? Now, how do you go about uploading them onto the various other platforms? I don't know, 4 or 5 different podcasting apps or platforms. Yeah.
So the good thing about podcasting is they all are based off of this thing called an RSS feed. So an RSS feed has a host, just like your website does, and you basically upload it to that host, and that host disperses it everywhere. So you listen on Overdrive, is that what you call it?
Overcast. Right.
Right. So I have never done anything with Overcast, but you found my podcast there.
It is.
Right. It just goes there. Right. And so iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, insert whatever podcast player there. Someone the other day, I was doing a talk in Williamsburg yesterday, and this lady goes, "Oh, I listen on this, and I've never heard of it." It was there.
Okay.
Right. So the RSS feed is basically just this. You upload the files, and it goes boom. Is it a little bit more challenging than that? Sure, but ultimately that's all that has to happen. And the only other upload I have to do is I then manually upload to YouTube that same file, and it just goes up.
Okay, so now you have your 4 audio files. You've stitched them together.
One audio file.
Well, let's go back. How do you take the 4 audio files and combine them into one? What program do you use?
iMovie.
Okay.
But okay, so it's an introduction and usually an out cue. That basically, the out cue is almost always the same. The introduction is basically me recapping the episode, saying this is why you should listen. Then it goes to this quick little bumper, which is basically a quick little, just like 4 seconds. It's like, you're watching Zack Miller Says, so that the transition's a little different. And then it goes to the episode, so it's 3, maybe 4 pieces. I put all that into iMovie. iMovie came with the computer. There are free and cheap editing, no matter what you're doing. It's very easy to do these things.
Okay, so you've combined the files. You've deployed them on
export
RSS.
Yep. So you export it, and from that export, just like you're uploading a picture to Facebook or a video to Facebook, you upload it there. What I use, it says give me a name, a description, and tagging it a little bit, because podcasts, I guess, are more indexable than your normal social feed. And so I'll put in and I'll do like whatever the title is. So usually it's something catchy, then : name of the show, : episode name. And so I've done that from the beginning because that was kind of the standard that I wanted to do. And the description is what you're thinking it's going to have, and this is what you're listening to, kind of high level stuff. And then links if there's links to link to the thing.
Perfect. So there you go. That's a pretty good rundown of how to get from this point where you're actually filming using a live platform, in this case Facebook Live. But you will be seeing this on YouTube as well. You'll be seeing it in a post on Startwheel, startwheel.org.
And this is why this is important, right? So there are people watching this now, thank you. There are people listening to this now, thank you.
Hey Jen, hey Jason.
Super excited to have you guys on here. But there's more than you in this world, right? And I think so many people think, I posted this thing, it's great. You have to recycle this information. And you have to recycle it at a frequency that you figure out, right?
Shout out to Reinvent Hampton Roads for watching.
Greetings. But you have to figure out what that frequency is. And so there might be a nugget in here that's really good that's only 30 seconds long. So you pull that nugget, push that out, and then at the end of it, tell people, hey, if you want the full episode, rewatch this video, right? And so most of the time, you just need to be recycling content over and over again. And you can do that by filtering it or sending those people towards the full piece and not just doing it once, doing it and pushing it many, many times.
Okay. Do you have any other advice for those who are interested in getting into more content, video creation, audio creation, and are afraid to do it, much like I was, because it's tough to foresee being consistent about it if you haven't yet done it until now, right? And those who are just on the verge of trying to figure out how you would efficiently go about, not only recording the content, which takes some time and consideration. We spent 45 minutes before this talking about what we might talk about.
I know what we're going to talk about. That was all on him.
Okay, so fault lays with me. But any other last comments for our audience on this?
I think the key is, Nike has the best motto or slogan ever, just do it. You're going to learn a lot. I started doing live video 2010, 2011. Facebook Live wasn't around at that point. It was like, I think it was called Google Hangouts Live or On Air, something like that. And I just started doing videos. At the point, I think I was doing them every weekday at 10 a.m. or maybe not even that, fast frequency. Maybe every Tuesday at like 10 a.m. I don't remember what I called it, but the point is just you're getting yourself comfortable and you're going to get better, right? And so these things take time. People would say, Zach, you're so good at talking. It's like I have probably 100,000 hours of talking in front of me.
Oh, don't we know that?
But that's why I'm good at that, right?
And that's why I came to you for advice on this.
So, like, I'm not, like, that's not, like, a cocky statement. That's just saying, like, I've done so much of this that, like, yes, I still get nervous. But, like, I'm comfortable because I understand what to expect, right? And so that's going to happen over time, right? You will get better over time. It doesn't matter what you're doing in life. You're constantly, hopefully trying new things. And so I was talking to Evans just a second ago, and I just bought this new bicycle, and I'm training to do this race, and I had to buy new shoes that clip into the bike, and I've never done that before. I'm terrified of it. I'm terrible at it. And it's just, I have to do more repetitions to figure that out, right? So if I was like you doing this first video, or if I was someone watching doing my first video, I'd probably be terrified, right? I'd probably suck at it. I probably wouldn't know what to expect. That happens. But you have to, the more you do it, the more you realize, okay, this is what I need to expect.
So I think that parallels, startups and building a business from scratch, especially in general. It's like, Facebook, started very humble beginnings in a dorm room, and here we are, 15
I love the
later.
parallel of business and sports, business and food, right? Like a business and life. And I think there's a lot that you can parallel those things towards, because I think you have to do a lot of work, you have to do a lot of frequency to get better.
Yeah.
You own a coffee shop, do you ever cut an onion?
It's been a while.
Okay. But do you know how to cut an onion, like the fancy way?
Probably not.
But
I know how to get an onion sliced up, but
if you're gonna do it like, Chris,
get me on track. What answer were you looking for?
If you were to say yes, you realize that, like, if you want that perfectly cut onion, like, if you were to just go into it and hack it, it's not going to look fancy,
sure,
right? But if you cut it straight, cut it angly, and then cut it the other angle, it will look prettier. These things take time.
Only come with time and practice.
Right? In business, like, oh, I don't want to sell this thing. Well, you have to sell it, and these things take time. But the key in all of that, I think, is listening to what these people are saying, listening to what the comments are saying, see who is commenting and these type of things. So if we start to realize that we do this show and people love watching Between Two Fake Trees with Zack Miller and Shelton, and the type of person that keeps popping on is a very specific demographic. And by the way, I think the standard demographics are almost out the window at this point. There's deeper stuff that we have to figure out. We can get to that in a different show. But then we could start creating and curating our content towards that type of person, because that person is the one tuning in. That's where you get kind of your niche, and you're creating and producing material that individual or those type of individuals are looking for. That's why you need to get stuff out, so that you can start to figure out, okay, who and what are they looking for?
In the meantime, we'll throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. If you guys want to leave us some comments and let us know what you thought about this one, what other sorts of questions you'd like us to answer in the future.
No, Alan, we are not doing that.
What is he asking? Hi, Alan.
He's saying that he can't read what the screen says. We get it. We know that you can't read it. Sorry. No, obviously we'll take that into consideration, and we'll figure this out.
Yeah.
Chris is the tech guy for Startup Night only.
A man of many trades, but yeah, this whole social video stuff I'm just getting into. And
at the end of the day, the key is getting the content out. We'll tweak that stuff in the future. The thing that we spent the most money on at this point was the 2 fake trees,
which were already here in this room that we
had to rent them.
We're here at the ODU Innovation Center, and we were looking for the room where this would work out, and we just cobbled it together. This is MVP. You mentioned consistency, so I would like to make sure that we are consistent. Perhaps next Thursday about 2 o'clock, maybe.
Oh, great!
We'll see how this runs. Maybe bi-weekly. We'll check our schedule.
Biannually.
Zach is on the road a lot. I understand hawking this Anomaly book. So you can pick up a copy, Amazon, Audible. What other outlets are you in?
Well, if you're in downtown Norfolk, you can go to Prince Books. It's at Prince Books.
You want to give
Great
them
little show.
your website again, so they can buy direct on your website? Or
Everything that I do, Zack Miller Says. So whether you're going to my website, zackmillersays.com, or all my social handles at Zack Miller Says. Why? Because it's easier to find it.
Perfect.
What are all yours? Are they that easy?
Startwheel.org, at startwheel.org, facebook.com.
Do you write out
/startwheel.
.org, or do you do startwheel?
No, well,
.org.
So a little, how the sausage was made. We were unsuccessful in obtaining the .com for Startwheel, and so knowing or having the foresight that folks would just inevitably type in .com, I thought branding as much as it made sense to with startwheel.org would be a good idea. So therefore, our Facebook is /startwheel-org, because you can't do /startwheel.org. LinkedIn, I believe, is very similar, but
So my point is made is that when you can have a consistent URL across the board, so that you're not saying it sucks that you can't get it right, and obviously these faults happen. But when you can, and maybe if you're starting, try to get a URL, and all of your handles, which is like Facebook, Twitter, your Skype handles, etc., have them all be the same thing, so that you can say, just find me Zack Miller Says across the board. Just makes it easier instead of saying go to start wheel underscore org +3 minus a 4. It's not that bad.
Yeah, whether you realize it or not, you end up making a considerable, probably the biggest investment in time, effort, and later money in your company or business is in your branding. Whether you realize it or not, that investment is going to be huge. And if you at some point decide you want to change your branding, there's a lot of work to do with that. There's a lot of cleaning up. Now you've got to go back and all of the previous content that you've created, you're going to have to change. How are people going to find you? They've known you. We had a pitch last night at Startup Night. Cater Boom. Check them out. Cater Boom, CATERBOOM.
What were they before?
I'm sorry?
What were they before?
What were they before?
They just rebranded.
Oh, Cater Now. So, yeah, good question. They were Cater Now and just went through a wholesale rebranding, which I think honestly makes sense, the reasoning behind their rebranding. But the point is, it was a major investment and a major overhaul in doing that. All of their collateral had to change, their website, their domain, et cetera, all had to change. So keep that in mind, especially at the early stages, that you establish a name and a branding that you can be consistent with for quite some time to come, maybe at the point that you get venture capital or some other resources that would enable you to change your brand more efficiently. But it's going to, do not think that it is not a lot of work to change the brand, because it most definitely is.
And for those of you that follow me on the non-Start Wheel stuff, you know that I'm a huge wrestling fan, so WWE, right? But historically, they are WWF. And so they have this thing called the WWE Network, which is their OTT network, which is like Hulu or Netflix and stuff like that. But what's interesting about that is back about 20 years ago, I think, they had to rebrand because they got in a lawsuit with World Wildlife Foundation and they lost. And so what's interesting though is all old content that they have.
I remember WWF.
But right? So they had to spend a crap ton of money on this. So if you go back, and what I was going to get to with the network is that if you are a subscriber to the network and watch something from the old WWF days, they've actually had to go in and blur that F out on all of that content. So not only is it just the brand of being recognized, but then they had to, I guess,
retroactively
go back and fix all that stuff. I mean, that gets expensive, right? I mean, thousands of hours of content a year that they had to go back to and blur out an F from every single part that it was there. So whether it was on the big screen, on the little the banner, like everywhere.
That's
and
nice.
So you'll have the microphone, and they'll have to like blur out the microphone. I mean, that's crazy. And that is so it's something that you have to be very cautious of. I would almost think if you're in the very early stages, to almost not brand yourself yet, just to get through some of this stuff in questionnaires with people first. Just generally do it, because what you don't want to have happen, and I know plenty of businesses that have done this, they've branded themselves 4 or 5 times, because as they get deeper in with their kind of champion customers, they realize that what they thought they were, they're not, and so they feel like they have to change their name every single time. And not only is it a pain in the tail with like the legality of it, but from a brand perspective, like it's a real pain.
It's tough to follow a brand that keeps changing its name.
Yeah, I mean, and then if you're like WWE and you have the lawsuit against you from another business,
right?
I mean, that becomes a huge. I mean, imagine if you changed your name today and you became Wheel Start, right? That would be that would just be a completely. That would be too much for you. You'd probably lose all your hair from it.
We'd get through it though. Flexibility is key in entrepreneurship. Well, we got a little off subject there, but I think that still pertains especially to when you're doing some broadcast. If you're just getting into it, make sure that you're aware of the implications on your branding.
And I'd say your brand more than not saying your brand.
Startwheel.org. Startwheel.org. You can find us on social media, Facebook. We're at Startwheel.
And if you like this content, feel free to share it on all of your favorite social networks.
There you go.
Or just to your friends here on Facebook.
And do sign up for the startwheel.org newsletter. Pick up your book, your copy of Anomaly, whatever channel you want to pick it up on. So as for now, we'll go ahead and sign off.
Bye, Brian. See you later, buddy.
Chris Shelton.
Thanks for watching, Mom.
Startwheel. Zack Miller with Anomaly. This has been
Between
2 fake trees.
Hey, I was supposed to say trees.
Let's try that again. Between 2
fake trees.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Have a lovely day.
See you soon.
Peace.